gets even tacked. Group was already strung out. Everyone's kind of tired. So this was kind of an all-in effort here.
Holy
Hoping to split it up.
You peaked nearly at 1,300. You're still at 600 there. All right. Another race analysis video, this time with Keegan Swenson again.
Yeah.
But this time we're not doing a short track. We're going to be doing a fat tire crit. This one is from where, Keegan?
The Whiskey Off-Road in Prescott, Arizona.
So tell me how these fat tire crits work in relation to these Epic Rides races, because they're usually like a long 50-mile race, but then they also have these races.
Yeah, so the fat tire crits are a kind of a Friday evening thing with, everyone's out spectating, drinking beer, hanging out, and we just basically, it's like they call it a fat tire crit, but it's more of like a fast tire short track, in my opinion. It's not a regular crit per se, so it starts off really hard.
Oh, and this course has a climb in it.
Yeah, it's got about a 20-second climb up this street called Union Street, and it's basically the same course every year with a few small variations.
Sheesh, you're pushing hard.
But yeah, so it's always really hard.
And there's Ryan Standish in the green with the green sleeves off to your left up
sitting
there.
On the front.
Smart man, getting out front early. So these races, do they do call-ups or how do they decide your position?
Yeah, I mean, for the first one this year, they did the overall call-up from last year. So if you were in the top 5 overall from the Epic Ride Series and you got a call-up, otherwise it was just like first come, first serve, who is most aggressive to get to the front of the call-up, basically.
Got it. And we have our first attacks going right now. People launching through. It kind of slowed up there, so people wanted to keep the momentum up. Yeah.
The pace high.
And then this, if you win this also decides your position for the 50-mile race that comes up.
It does, which
doesn't matter quite
so
as
important,
much.
but it's always nice to be on the front row. Less stressful, and then there's cash.
Yeah.
Cash preems, and then there's payout for the win. So.
And it's always fun to win a race.
Exactly. Race is a race, and you want to go fast, and you want to win.
So in these sort of races, this one, you got a little rise right here on this course too. It looks like that's
gentle.
probably got to still hurt the legs. Once
This
you're
one's
deep into the
deceptive.
race.
Like you come in with a lot of momentum, but you still have to keep pedaling hard to keep that speed. It's not free.
Yeah. So where would you ideally attack on this course?
Oh, on the steep climb.
On the
steep climb.
And for reference, your power and weight. Can you give that? Can you share that so that people can understand?
Yeah, my FTP, I guess the altitude here is about 360-ish, and I'm about 145, 146 pounds, somewhere in there.
Okay. Yeah, so you are an extremely strong climber with those sort of numbers. So in this race, does the attack usually go on the climb? Ooh, there goes Travis McCabe, professional. He rides for the Floyd's team on the road side of things, and he's wearing Daisy Dukes, it looks like.
That's Steven DeVoust on the front.
He's had a good year this year.
Tall horse. He's strong.
So in this case, when you have a roadie show up to these things like Travis McCabe, which, I mean, he also rides mountain bikes too, so it's perhaps unfair to just call him a roadie, but that's his primary focus. Were you worried about that? Were you trying to mark him, or what was your strategy?
I mean, not really. Like, you definitely got to keep an eye on him because he's strong. But I think a lot of roadies underestimate these fat tire crits. I think they think it's more like a regular crit. Yeah. And they don't realize how aggressively they're raced.
Yeah, I feel like you guys show your cards early and you just lay them out there. Whereas with a crit, it's much more gamesmanship. Even though there's still a ton of strategy in this, it's just you guys push harder from the beginning, whereas I think in a crit, a lot of the time it doesn't.
Yeah, these are also shorter races. So I think,
good point.
A lot of crits are, 45 minutes, an hour long for the shorter ones.
Hour 30,
and,
sometimes even.
And this is 20 minutes plus 3 laps. So it's like, if you're going to make something happen, you got to give her.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you carry a good amount of speed through here. I mean, you're still going about 30 miles an hour through this section, which is pretty quick. So you're still carrying a good amount of speed. At this point, with Steven in front of you, what are you thinking in terms of strategy? Do you think that he's going to attack and you'd want to go with him?
I mean, my thought was he kind of already put in a pretty good effort. So that last lap, he went hard on the front. I mean, as you see, I was sitting behind him doing 400 watts, right? Yeah. And so I was like, well, this lap could be a good one to go. Because even tacked. Group was already strung out. Everyone's kind of tired. So this was kind of an all-in effort here.
Holy cow.
Hoping to split it up.
You peaked nearly at 1,300. You're still at 600 there.
Get a little rest around the corner, and then it's straight back on the throttle out of this turn because you got to keep it high.
So you were thinking about that when you launched the attack. You didn't want to just carry that speed over the top. You wanted to get a second to rest, and you could hit it again. Yeah,
you got to stay on. I mean, right here, back up to mid 500s. At this point, Russell Finsterwald had gotten on my wheel as well. And I looked back and saw him coming. I was like, all right, we got to keep it fast. So I stay on the gas over the top of this, and then once we get down there, we'll let Russell take a pull.
Judging by the shadows over the top of the climb, you caused a separation that was like a big split.
Yeah. And that's this race. That's kind of the move. Like, you have to kind of hit it early and hit it hard. Otherwise, it just kind of yo-yos the whole time, and it's really hard to get a bunch of separation unless you really go for it.
Todd Sadow has let me join some of these fat tire crits before as an amateur, and I get to join with you guys, and I can attest that they are the hardest races I've ever done.
Yeah, this one, your lungs are scorching the entire time.
I've only done the Carson City off-road one, which is, when I did it, it was very turny, and it did have a slight drag in it. But if you are back in the field, the yo-yo effect is so much worse than anything I've ever experienced in a road race, anything.
Once you get outside the top 10, it is brutal.
Oh my gosh, it is hard. I still have power. I wasn't even fit, and I have power PRs from that race. And I don't think I'll ever break them again.
So in this lap, we were still trying to keep the pace high to really get that gap spread out.
So are you talking to them about that? Or did you talk beforehand with Finsty?
Finsty and I talked beforehand. But once you we kind of knew what we have to do, right? Like the first couple laps after the initial split, you have to keep it high and try and get that separation, kind of snap that elastic and break that mentally. Be like, all right, we got the gap. Now we can keep it kind of more steady.
Yeah, so at this point, you probably did a few minutes basically now. You've been off the front. So at this point, you're like, all right, let's start to turn and burn, kind of do that rotation and just keep the pace up.
I think Payson had gotten on at this point. I'm not 100% sure where he gains. Yeah, I think he gained on the flats down there before the start finish.
Okay.
And he was probably pretty wrecked after bridging up. So then he set on for this lap, and then he starts pulling after this. So
now Payson's a bit of a you and Finsty are kind of similar in terms of build. Like you're very slight climbers. Payson is a bit more of like a bigger diesel guy, right?
Yeah.
So how does that change the dynamic? Like, are you thinking Payson should pull in specific places on this course?
I mean, I don't know. We all took turns in different places.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, like, Payson's going to be the strongest on, like, this section, for example, and, like, maybe over the top where it flattens out.
Yeah.
But I think it kind of just, whatever happened. We were just kind of taking pulls, and wherever you ended up, like, we were taking pulls in the climb, and then, I took some across the flats.
Yeah.
These two come through here, and then Russell will pull up the climb for a bit, and Payson will come through. And so I think we split the work pretty evenly.
So I noticed that Finsty just dropped his saddle into that turn. Is that something, and I guess we should cover the bike rules, and then we'll get back to the dropper thing, but you have to ride the same bike, right?
Yep, the exact same bike, chain ring, everything, aside from tires. You can swap out your tires, but they still have to be a minimum of 1.5 inches wide.
Okay.
So
you're still running a dropper, even though on a crit you wouldn't usually run one. So if you see a dropper on here and you're watching this, that's why. It's because they have a mountain bike race that they have to do on that bike in 2 days, and they can't change that. But it was interesting to see him using that. Do you use that in the turns ever?
I actually didn't.
On the fat tire crit?
Like, I didn't really feel like it was that necessary, and for me it was almost extra work. Like, I thought to, like, sit down and then to stand back up to make sure it raises. So I actually wasn't using it.
Huh. Yeah, I know our CEO, Nate, we've heard it in the Ask a Cycling Coach podcast plenty of times where he talks about how he's really tall, 6'6".
Yeah.
And he said it feels like for him, it really helps him go through turns, in like cyclocross and that sort of stuff.
Oh, yeah, definitely helps.
Yeah, having it a little lower, like that, lowers your center of gravity. Payson's drilling it pretty good here, but it's still not crazy, the wattage. Like right there,
no, it's reasonable.
400 watts.
I mean, we still have, another 15 minutes of racing, so we're trying to keep it in check and not blow ourselves up.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, what do you say? Oh, and one other thing, because we're going to fast forward through some laps here, but one other thing I know is they throw out preems in this race. And you mentioned that you guys actually had like an accord, like you made a deal on the preems. Explain that, how that works.
Yeah. So the preems, I think it was like a couple $100 for the preem. And, we were all in this kind of in it for the win. So I was like, all right, guys, let's just, split the preem. No one, do anything dumb and blow this move up. Because we had a good thing going. At one point, we had 20 seconds.
Right.
Which is a decent gap for how short this race is. So I think, it was a good move. We ended up, it's like $70 to split it all up. But, hey, it's beats, having the group blow up, and then we all get caught, and then no one wins.
Yeah, it keeps you all together, gives you a much better chance. Oh, dear me.
Yeah, it gets a little sketchy there with lappers. A little hairy.
So that's where they pull them out of there. Yeah. The other thing I want to point out, too, is look at your heart rate. I mean, it's basically pegged, high the whole time.
Threshold is about there, 172, I think is my real threshold.
Right.
So you're pretty much sitting right about there the entire time.
And you were seated up that climb. What gearing did you have on the bike?
So I ran a 36 tooth chainring up front.
Okay.
And then I have a 10. I think I had the 1045 on the back, 1046.
With the new Shimano XTR.
The new 9100.
The 9100. Yeah. And then what bike are you on?
The Pivot Less.
Pivot Less. Awesome. So the hardtail.
The hardtail.
Any other unique things you do with your equipment for these fat tire crits? Like, do you change like what you wear or anything else like that?
I wore the skin suit. I guess it's the big thing for the long race. I mean, I like to have pockets, and it's nice to be able to open up the jersey on the long Skull Valley climb to let it kind of breathe.
Which is the climb you face a couple days later.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. But for this, it's all about aerodynamics and speed. So I was wearing a skin suit, and other than that, everything's the same. I mean,
nice. And that was an Ossos skin suit?
Yep. Yeah, an Ossos skin suit.
Which helmet do you use?
The Cast Protone.
Okay, so that's like a semi-aero helmet, I feel like?
Yeah, I think it's semi-aero. I mean, it's not super aero, but it still breathes well, and like it's pretty light. It's kind of like the best of both worlds, I think.
Yeah. We're going to fast forward a bit here through this one. We're going to get into some later laps here. I'm going to try to find one where you had a very close call with some lappers, which is pretty terrifying. So you're in this breakaway because you're working together with these riders.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, I'm sure you're still looking for weaknesses.
Oh, yeah.
In the riders. So, like, what signs are you looking for to, like, tell you, like, this might be a good spot, or this person's feeling this, a certain
Yeah,
way?
I mean, for me, like, my strength was the climb, and I was trying to, like, I wasn't, like, hitting it hard, but I was trying to make it hard enough that these guys would hopefully, like, zap their legs a little bit, right? So the last lap, when you go to twist it, they're a little softer, and that was kind of, like, my MO the whole time. I was like, whenever I was on the front of the climb, I didn't intentionally get there every time.
Yeah.
Whenever I ended up there, I'd maybe ride a touch higher pace than I felt that they were comfortable with.
Right.
Just to kind of, I didn't want to, like, obviously you don't want to drop your breakaway mates, but you want to, like, make them work a little and, soften the legs up.
Yeah, everyone should work a bit, and if you can work it out so that you work just slightly less.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Good, right? Yeah. If you look at the lines that you guys take in the corners, it's really interesting watching Finsty. He seems to take really good lines, not very much adjustment, mid-corner adjustment, He's just really kind of smooth and rolling through. Do you notice a difference when you ride with, like, these, like, high-caliber mountain bikers, or, like, if you get back in the pack or have, like, I know you've had some roadies that have joined these things. Are they good at taking the right lines, too? Or is it a unique mountain bike thing?
I think it's, it really depends. I mean, there's a few guys who aren't quite as strong who are still, like, really good bike handlers and still no good lines, but there's also these guys who may be good bike handlers on the mountain bike, but they have a hard time with like setting up for the road turns and knowing where to hit the apex and like where to lay into it.
Right, I could see that for a mountain biker.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different thing. And then the mountain bikes also handle really weird with the small tires at speed.
Yeah, they do.
Like these bikes aren't really built to go 30, 40 miles an hour into like a 90-degree turn on pavement.
Right.
So the front wheel, everything's a little twitchier, like it's a little odd, so it takes some time to get used to.
Those wide bars are super hard too. Like,
when you're trying to move through the pack, like everyone thinks, it's a road crit, you can just kind of bump elbows and move on through.
And you can't.
But with these, you have to be a little aware of like, I have 720 millimeter bars on. Am I going to fit through that hole or not? Like,
right. Yeah, exactly. I think that, so this is the spot where the lappers get in the way here. So you guys come through, ripping through pretty quick, and then you think, I'm going to go inside, but oh dear.
Yeah, so it was a little hectic because I was like, saw those guys and I was like, man, which way are they going to go? And they just were taking up the entire road.
Yeah. And
then I was like, there's our gaps. And then I hit this climb. It looks like a little harder than last lap. Try and make sure we kept at that point, you might have had 12 seconds. Sounds like we got to, stay on the gas to try and keep that gap.
Payson got the memo too.
He got the memo because I hit it hard. He's like, all right, we got to stay on it.
Yeah. And the gap was hovering. You said you heard anywhere from like 12 to 25 seconds.
Yeah. So Jerome, our mechanic, was giving me splits at the bottom, and I was hearing, and then Payson was getting splits at the top from someone.
Okay.
And it seemed like the smallest it got might have been 10 seconds, which might have been right there because that was
pretty close.
Yeah.
That's not really that, like a 10-second gap on that climb. When you're on the climb, they're looking at you, like they can see you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But in this courses, it's also like it's pretty tight. So I think once you like, if we were cresting the top of the climb and they were at the bottom, that's kind of a lot to like stomach, right? Like, these guys are at a whole climb ahead of us right now. So
exactly. It's kind of funny how that works. Like 10 seconds may not be enough, but it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind, right?
Yeah. I mean, you look at the power we're doing up the climb, and for someone to catch us, they have to do more than that. So it's a lot of work. It's a tall ask.
So let's fast forward to 2 laps to go. I'm sure you're feeling pretty cooked.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm sure your breakaway mates are feeling pretty cooked too. Ooh, that's a pretty hard effort still going up there. you're not attacking right now. You're just trying to keep the pace high.
Just keep it high and make sure that we don't get lazy.
Maybe trying to hurt some legs.
Maybe
too?
trying to soften Finsty and Payson's legs a little bit for the next lap.
Yeah, I'm sure that hurt him. You just being the lighter rider, 700 watts. It's not a small amount of watts.
No, it's a lot.
So it looks like at this point, judging by the shadows, it looks like Finsty got distanced a bit. So when do you start to do some gamesmanship? It looks like you're slowing down a bit here, but when do you start to think, okay, now we're racing between us in this breakaway?
Basically, in my mind, the whole race, I was like, well, we work together until the last lap, and then all bets are off. Everyone, all men for themselves, right?
Right.
So this is kind of where thing I was like, oh, well, Payson came around, and I wasn't really sure how he was feeling. Like, he looked like he was still going okay. At the time, Russell looked like he was pretty boxed.
Yeah.
So I know he was still on our wheel there.
Payson just looked back, and then he kind of like took a breath. That almost is like a sign to me that he's tired, but he looked back and he feels like it's okay, we have a gap.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, that would totally make me go, oh, okay, now I'm racing Payson.
Yeah, exactly. And that was kind of my thought. I was like, well, like Russell's sitting on, he's not going to do any work. Payson was kind of looking, weaving around, hoping I would come through. And I was like, well, I'm pretty content to sit here. We're not going to get caught at this point.
Right.
Especially the next lap, I knew it was going to be fast.
He's taking a drink.
Yeah,
he's
getting
doing
ready.
Those. Yep. He keeps looking back.
He's gonna
wiping
bend down.
his mouth there, but he was really looking back. That was a good one.
He's gonna
Payson.
tighten his shoes.
Yeah.
Which is
that's the sprint
2
thing,
seconds.
right? Yeah. There he goes.
Tighten your shoes. I'm probably doing mine too. It's like habit. You're like, oh, like things about to get real. Got to crank the shoes down so your feet are numb.
So first lap, or this is the last lap. You have a big guy in front of you, so you want to attack where it's going to hurt him most, right?
Yeah. Which for me is the bottom of the climb. Like you got to hit him when it hurts and do it long.
Snap. 1400. Jeez.
So you gotta kind of go for the long bombs. I know, like I didn't want to drag Payson to the line.
And you don't want to start the attack a little later on the climb too, right? You want to get that speed differential. There's McCabe.
Yeah,
probably taking some hand ups from fans. So you went up that thing darn near at 1,000 watts the whole time, and now, so what's your strategy now? You're probably cooked.
I'm pretty cooked. The legs are about to cramp, and I'm basically just going as hard as I can, like hands on the stem, tucked down, like just burying myself.
That's how you get more aero.
Yeah. So you gotta tuck down, like kind of like like as if you had like little handles there, and get really low. Tuck your head down and like stare at the stem.
So your hands are like on the bars, but right next to the stem, basically.
It makes a big difference. You can feel the drag.
Yeah.
So I was doing that, and then I was still on the stem here into this turn.
Nice.
Maybe not recommended.
Stayed on it.
Gotta stay aero.
Yeah, especially because Payson's a heavier rider, so in these sections he carries way more speed potentially than you.
And I like looked back at the top of the climb, it looked like I had a gap, but like even right here, like you still got to stay on the gas because you never know. Like
that 500.
You don't know until you get to the line.
I'm sure that effort right there, even
it hurt so bad.
Hurt a
like
bunch.
Heart rate 182. That's about as high as it ever gets.
Yeah.
So
you're wide open.
Yeah.
So I guess it comes down to knowing your strengths relative to the strengths or weaknesses of other people.
Exactly. You got to play off your strengths and kind of follow them and do what you do best. It's kind of it.
Hands in the air across the line.
Hands in the air.
Nice job, man.
Yeah, thank you.
This has been awesome. I'm looking forward to more of these Fat Tire crits from the Epic Ride series. And thanks to Epic Rides for letting riders film.
Appreciate it.
The cameras. It's awesome. Really cool of them to do, and for putting these awesome races on. And thanks to you and the Stan's Pivot Pro team for letting us ride along with you, which is pretty cool. Oh, there's
my grandparents.
Oh, that's
psyched.
Awesome. Awesome.
There's Jerome,
the team mechanic, the guy that makes it all happen. So if you are curious about this episode, you can go on to forum.trainerroad.com and you can check out more discussion on this. If you have questions for Keegan, questions about Fat Tire crits, about setting up your mountain bike for like a road bike, whatever it may be.
If you want to. Yeah, it's pretty fun. The bikes are fun. Yeah.
If you have any of those questions, jump into the forum and you can do that. Just search for the same video title that you'll see for this video. You just search it on forum.trainerroad.com. If you have any questions about what we do here at TrainerRoad, just head over to trainerroad.com. We have some awesome stuff that we're constantly putting out to make people faster. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll talk to you next time.